Months later, Grace Fountain Ministries closed. Tina moved away, starting a new life in Chicago. Marcus visited Valerie one last time in prison. She had begun preaching again, this time to inmates. "I'm still fighting," she said softly. "Then maybe there's hope," Marcus replied. That night, as he left the prison gates, the security lights flickered. From her cell, Valerie smiled faintly. Outside, a shadow moved along the wall and whispered her name. The Fulton County Jail chapel smelled like old wood and lemon cleaner. 6 rows of metal chairs faced a scuffed podium. Pastor Valerie Monroe, inmate #A4719, stood behind it with a chipped Bible, wrist cuffed to her waist chain. She looked thinner now, cheekbones sharp, eyes rimmed with sleeplessness. But her voice, when she spoke, still carried that familiar warmth. "Ladies," she said, scanning the dozen women in gray jumpsuits, "prayer doesn't make you forget what you did. It helps you become who you must be." A tall woman with braids, Aaliyah Leith Grant, raised a hand. "They say you got people killed." Valerie didn't flinch. "They say many things about saints and sinners. I'm both. I'm here because I ran from my truth, not because God ran from me." Snickers, a few side eyes. But one woman in the back, Marla, stared with open longing, the kind that comes from hunger of the soul. Valerie set the Bible down. "Let's not pretend," she continued softly. "Night voices don't stop in jail. They get louder. I hear mine. You hear yours. So let's speak louder than them." Aaliyah folded her arms. "And what if the night speaks through people?" "Then we'll speak through each other," Valerie said. "And drown it out." That night, the guard flicked off the chapel lights. In the corner, a shadow fluttered like a torn flag. Valerie pressed her forehead to the steel bed frame and whispered the short prayer she relied on when every other line failed. "Jesus, be louder." The fluorescent bulbs hummed, then stilled. Somewhere down the hall, an inmate screamed in her sleep. Valerie closed her eyes and pictured a single flame in a dark room. She did not ask the darkness to leave. She asked the light to grow. Detective Marcus Hale sat in his office long after the precinct quieted, staring at photos, salt circles, wax drips, the sigil with an eye inside a triangle. On another board, Valerie at a ribbon cutting, Valerie on a TV show, Valerie praying for a child's healed leg. 2 lives laminated into one. Deja Carter came in with coffee. "You ever go home?" she asked, pushing a mug to his hand. "Home is overrated," he murmured, pinning a new report. "We missed something." "We closed the case," Deja said. "DA's happy." Media moved on. Marcus pointed at a timeline string. Victim counts dipped after the arrest, for 3 months. Then 2 new disappearances on the West End. Same candle wax. Same ash compound. Deja's jaw tightened. "Copycat." "Maybe," Marcus said, "or maybe the circle never ended. Maybe Valerie wasn't the leader. Maybe she was collateral." He pulled a thin folder. "Mother Clarice." The blind shopkeeper's statement had been elusive, poetic. "The one she serves doesn't forgive betrayal." Marcus circled the line. He'd heard many liars. Clarice didn't feel like one. She felt like a person terrified of naming a storm. "Let's talk to her again," Deja said. "Tomorrow," Marcus replied. "Before sundown." He shut off the office lamp. Just before the room went dark, he thought he saw a flicker in the reflection of the window. An eye. Marcus blinked, then shook his head. "Get a grip," he muttered, "the way cops do when they've tasted too much strangeness." In Chicago, Tina Brooks lived in a studio above a bakery that started kneading dough at 4 a.m. The city's hum wrapped her like a blanket. She'd changed her number, blocked Atlanta acquaintances, taken a receptionist job at a community clinic. She didn't pray much anymore. She didn't argue with God either. She kept her life small and clean and quiet. One night, a thick envelope arrived with no return address. Her name in blue ink, Christina Brooks. She turned it over twice before opening. Inside, a single page in Valerie's handwriting. Tina, forgiveness is not a door they open for you. It's a door you open for yourself to let breath in. I failed you. If you can't forgive me now, save the key. You'll need air later. V. Tina sat on the edge of her bed, letter trembling. Anger pricked her eyes, but right behind it was grief, and right behind that was love, the messy stack no one teaches you how to hold. Her phone buzzed. Unknown Atlanta number. She let it ring. It rang again, and again. Finally she answered, voice low. Hello. Static. Then a woman's hush. Tina, they're back. Who is this? It's Marla. From Fulton. A swallow. Pastor told us about you. Something's wrong. Aaliyah's speaking in voices. The lights go weird near the chapel. Please call that detective. The line cut. Tina stared at the ceiling. She had left so carefully, like a surgeon withdrawing the scalpel. And here the wound was, open again, calling her name. She didn't sleep. The bell above Clarice's Botanica and books tinkled as Marcus and Deja stepped inside. Shelves lined with candles, herbs, old paperbacks. The air smelled of smoke and orange peel. Detective, Clarice said before they spoke, eyes opaque but somehow with aim. You came before the sun dropped. Good. We have 2 new disappearances, Marcus said. West End. Same ritual fingerprints. Clarice nodded, motioning them to sit at a tiny table. You are hunting a body, she said, when you should be hunting a vow. Deja frowned. English, please. Clarice traced a circle on the table with a fingertip. Valerie bound herself years ago. She thought she broke it when she put on white robes. But vows made tonight don't break with costume. They break with renunciation and, sometimes, restitution. Restitution? Marcus asked. For the dead wronged, for the living used, Clarice said softly. For a specific child who died when she was still V. Marcus stiffened. We read about that. Rochelle Adams' daughter. Clarice tilted her head. Rochelle is not dead. She is angry. And anger makes a door. Where is she? South River Gardens, Clarice replied. She works nights at a packaging plant. She comes home at 4 a.m. She keeps a candle by the window that doesn't burn down. Deja scribbled notes. That a metaphor? It's a warning, Clarice said. Marcus leaned forward. Clarice, are we dealing with a copycat cult? You are dealing with debt collectors, she said. And they are punctual. Back in jail, lights shivered like nervous birds. Aaliyah Lee Grant jolted awake with a strangled sound, eyes glassy, voice not her own. Blood debt! Open the gate! Open! Valerie stood, heart sprinting. Lee, look at me. Aaliyah's head twisted at an angle no neck should endure. She smiled, wide and wrong. You promised us at 22V. Your price was a pulpit. We kept our part. Valerie's fingers dug into her mattress seam. I renounce you. I renounced you then, and I renounce you now. You have no place. Aaliyah's laughter spilled like nails. The metal toilet in the corner rattled. A hairline crack split the mirror bolted above the sink. From another bunk, Marla began to pray. Father, in the name of Jesus. The corridor lights popped, plunging the tier into darkness. A security alarm chirped once, then died. The air grew cold enough to fog breath. Valerie dropped to her knees. I break agreement with you, she whispered, louder, stronger. I repent for blood I invited. By the blood of Christ I cancel the ledger. Aaliyah convulsed. For a moment, her eyes cleared, cheeks wet. "Help me," she croaked in her own voice. Then her body slammed against the cell bars with a clang that echoed down the hall. Guards swore and ran. Keys jammed in locks. Nothing turned. Doors would not yield. And under it all, a whisper threaded through every cell, the same sentence from 100 mouths. "Open the gate." Rochelle Adams lived in a narrow house with peeling blue paint and a porch that had seen too many summers. The candle by the window burned low but never reached the end. A pool of wax that should have crusted long ago stayed soft, molten, impossible. Marcus and Deja knocked at 4:17 a.m. Rochelle opened in a faded robe, eyes ringed, face lovely with a kind of beauty grief can't steal. "Police," Marcus said gently. "We're here about your daughter." Rochelle's throat worked. "You're 13 years late." "We know," Deja said. "We're also here because the harm isn't finished." Rochelle let them in. The living room held a shrine on a bookshelf, a framed photo of a little girl with barrettes, a tiny pair of pink shoes, a paper ribbon with faded handwriting, Janelle's first grade award, kinda smile. Rochelle sat, gripping her knees. "She told me she could heal her," she said flatly. "I gave that woman money, hair from Janelle's brush, a bracelet my mama wore in the 70s. I watched her light candles and whisper in a language the devil probably understands. And then my child died in my arms, colder than that bracelet." Tears threatened Marcus's composure. He kept his voice steady. "We arrested Valerie Monroe, but we think others are still operating. We think your grief is being used." Rochelle looked at the candle. "It never dies," she murmured. "Some nights I hear Janelle laugh in the hallway. Some nights I hear something else laugh. Would you be willing to meet Valerie?" Deja asked. "In the jail, with a chaplain present. Not for her, for you. To close this." Rochelle stared at them for a long time. "If I do," she said, "I want her to say my baby's name. Out loud. I want her to own it with her mouth." "She will," Marcus promised. Outside, as they left, Deja shivered. "That candle." Marcus nodded. "Yeah." As they pulled away, the flicker in the window tilted, like a small head, watching them go. Tina's hands shook as the plane descended into Atlanta, city lights like constellations on a black field. At the curb, she hesitated before getting into the rideshare, as if the asphalt might reach up and hold her. When you leave a place in pain, returning can feel like walking into a mouth. She messaged Marcus from the car. "Tina, I'm here. Marcus, meet us at Fulton, 10 a.m. Bring the letter if you can. And thank you." At the jail, the chaplain, a kind-faced woman with graying curls named Reverend Naomi Trent, greeted Tina with a hug so unexpected she almost crumpled. "You don't have to be strong to be useful," Naomi said quietly. Valerie entered the small visitation chapel flanked by 2 guards. Chains clinked. Her eyes, when they landed on Tina, softened with a pain that felt like confession. "Tina," she breathed, "you shouldn't have come. Then why did you write me?" Tina shot back, voice trembling. She slapped the letter onto the table. "You don't get to decide when I breathe." Marcus and Deja sat in the rear. Rochelle arrived next, led by Naomi. The room changed with her presence. Some grief is its own weather. Rochelle stood, arms folded. "Say her name." Valerie's lips parted around air. She closed her eyes. "Janelle Adams," she whispered. "I." "Louder," Rochelle said, voice hard. "Make the walls hear." Valerie lifted her chin. "Janelle Adams," she said, voice steady now. "I called spirits to save her and opened a door that took her life. I repent. Rochelle, I am sorry. I am so sorry." Silence. Then Rochelle's face cracked, not into mercy, but into something more honest. A sob ripped free of the cage of her ribs. Naomi caught her as she buckled. The fluorescent lights buzzed, then brightened. The temperature eased. Tina exhaled and didn't realize she'd been holding her breath for minutes. A guard touched his ear. We've got a situation on D tier. Doors jammed, lights flickering. Marcus stood. Let's go. Valerie looked at Naomi. I need chapel access. Naomi nodded. Then let's open heaven. Word travels strange in jail, like a rumor with legs. By the time they reached the chapel, half a dozen inmates had gathered, some crying, some laughing at nothing. Aaliyah Lee sat on the floor, rocking, whispering, "Open the gate," like an apology she couldn't stop repeating. Naomi handed Valerie a plain wooden cross from a drawer. Not magic, she said. Just memory. Valerie nodded, then turned to Aaliyah. Lee, look at me. Aaliyah's eyes lifted, slick with a dark shine that wasn't entirely hers. Do you bring the debt? I bring cancellation, Valerie said. By a blood stronger than mine. The overhead bulbs dimmed, then flared. The room smelled suddenly of metal and wet earth, storm scents with no storm. Naomi started a hymn, soft and sure. There is a fountain filled with blood. Tina stepped beside Valerie. You don't do this alone, she said through a tight jaw. Rochelle stood in the doorway, hands shaking, then moved inside, slow as a person stepping onto uncertain ice. She pulled the photo from her bag, Janelle's gap-toothed smile, and set it on the chapel lectern. Say it again, she told Valerie, voice breaking. Say her name with the song. Janelle Adams, Valerie said, tears burning. Janelle Adams, who deserved mornings and birthdays and old age. I repent for every agreement with darkness. I break it. I break it now. Aaliyah gagged, then screamed, a tearing sound, animal and ancient. Every light in the chapel blew at once. Glass rained like ice. The emergency LEDs glowed red. In the sudden gloom, a shape swam up the far wall, tall, thin, jointed wrong, a shadow with shoulders bent like folded knives. It turned what passed for a head toward Valerie. Marcus drew his weapon on reflex. Deja grabbed his wrist. Bullets won't fix a vow, she hissed. Valerie lifted the cross. Her hands didn't shake now. You don't get me, she said, voice ringing steel. I'm not yours to own. I am bought already. The air pressed like deep water. Aaliyah convulsed and then went limp. From somewhere in the mass of inmates, a voice rose. Marla's, not pretty, not trained, but true. Precious Jesus, take your prize. The shadow corroded at the edges like paper in flame, curling inward, and then, like that, it was gone. The emergency lights returned to white. The stink of metal faded. Aaliyah gasped, eyes clearing, tears streaking clean lines down dusty cheeks. What happened? Valerie sank to her knees. Tina caught her before she hit the floor. Paperwork followed the miracle like weather after thunder. Reports. Statements. A quiet memo about electrical malfunction. No one believed. Naomi set tea in front of Rochelle in the chaplain's office. Restitution, she said gently. It doesn't replace. It does repair. Rochelle stared into the cup. What can she give me? Not money, Naomi said. Not today. But truth has currency. And service does, too. Valerie entered, cuffed hands bandaged where glass had sliced. She sat opposite Rochelle and did something she'd never done in any boardroom or pulpit. She waited. She did not command the room to forgive. She let silence have its time. Finally, Rochelle spoke. I want a scholarship in Janelle's name, she said, for little girls who couldn't afford care. I want you to build it with your mouth in your hands, not your fame. Valerie nodded, tears shining. Yes. Rochelle lifted her chin. And I want you to come to my house when you get out, stand in my living room, and say her name again. If I get out, Valerie said softly. When, Rochelle corrected. You don't get to be evil at night anymore. Understood. Valerie exhaled a laugh she didn't know she had. Understood. Marcus stepped in, tapping the door frame. DA's office wants to talk, he said to Valerie. Your cooperation on the remaining circle members could change your sentence. Valerie met his eyes. I'll give you every name I know. Start with the 3 hooded figures, Marcus said. And whoever trained you before Clarice. Valerie's mouth tightened. His name was Elliot Crane. He called himself a curator of thresholds. He ran a basement lodge on Moreland. And he never worked alone. Marcus felt the case shift under his feet, a lock finally meeting its key. Warrants smart like bees when they're fresh. By dusk, Marcus, Deja, and a tactical team moved on a neat brick building off Moreland with a dry cleaner up front and a door marked storage in the alley. Behind it, a stairwell descending into red light. The basement was less a room than a mood. Velvet drapes, a polished table, 3 iron sconces with candles burned to perfect thirds. On the wall, an etched silver plate, an eye within a triangle. Clear, a SWAT voice called. No occupants. Marcus scanned shelves of ledgers, careful handwriting in a cramped script. Names. Dates. Offerings. His skin crawled. Deja lifted a photograph from a frame. Elliot Crane, silver hair, pale eyes, smile like a closed door. Beside him, 3 hooded figures. In the corner of the photo, almost invisible, a reflection in a polished bowl. Valerie, younger, face turned away in shame. Chain of command, Deja murmured. They seized everything. On the way out, a tiny hidden closet revealed a child's bracelet in a plastic bag. Pink beads, a tiny heart. Marcus felt his throat close. He bagged it himself. Upstairs, neighbors gathered, phones filming. Someone shouted, "What's going on?" No one answered because there are times truth is too heavy to toss to a crowd. In the car, Marcus texted Naomi, "We found a ledger. Maybe enough to move the DA." Naomi replied, "We're praying." He didn't identify as religious. Tonight he appreciated the logistics of hope. Weeks turned like slow pages. The DA negotiated. Valerie testified in closed session, precise and unsparing. 3 arrests followed in cities 2 states away. Elliot Crane vanished like smoke in wind, for now. The lodge was real. The debt, itemized. In jail, Aaliyah got sleep for the first time in months. Marla started a small circle in the mornings where they read a psalm and then wrote letters to people they had harmed. Naomi lobbied for a new chaplaincy program. Tina flew home to Chicago and came back a week later with a binder labeled Janelle Adams Scholarship and a spreadsheet that would have made any board member proud. Rochelle visited on Thursdays. She and Valerie sat with Naomi in the same small office, 3 women mapping a way out of the night. Sometimes they cried. Sometimes they planned budgets. Both were holy. One afternoon, as sunlight fell in parallelograms across the chapel floor, Naomi asked, "What will you do if the darkness comes knocking again?" Valerie didn't say, "I'll be strong." She had learned the vanity of that sentence. "I'll open the door to you first," she said, nodding to all of them. Naomi with her patient hands, Tina with her iron spreadsheets, Rochelle with a lion's heart. Then we open the door to the one who is louder. Tina slid a document across the table. The first scholarship recipient is a little girl named Aria Coleman. 7. Sickle cell. Her mother cleans offices at night. She needs a grant to cover a trial therapy. It's legal. It's real. It's life. Rochelle's voice thickened. "Let's begin." Valerie bowed her head. "Janelle Adams," she whispered, and it felt less like apology now and more like invitation, calling a witness to the making of good. Outside, a patrol siren wailed somewhere far, then faded. The day held steady. The courthouse hallway was the color of gray gum. The hearing would determine whether Valerie's cooperation merited resentencing. Reporters lingered, bored until they smelled drama. Marcus walked beside Valerie's chained steps, not as a guard, not as a friend, but as something in between, a man who had watched a storm and decided not all lightning meant fire. In the gallery, Tina, Naomi, Deja, and Rochelle sat shoulder to shoulder. When Valerie turned, their eyes steadied her like anchors. The judge read through stacks with a sigh. Ms. Monroe, your sworn statement led to 3 arrests. Your testimony remains sealed, but the results are not. We do not often say this in this court, but it appears you have helped. Valerie kept her gaze level. I'm trying to spend the rest of my life paying down the wrong accounts, Your Honor. A tiny smile ghosted the judge's mouth. The court reduces your sentence to time served plus 5 years of supervised community service under a restrictive program coordinated with the chaplain's office. You will be monitored closely. You will be expected to work. If you breathe wrong, I'll know. Yes, Your Honor, Valerie said, relief hitting so hard her knees trembled. Reporters erupted as she exited. Pastor, are you still a woman of God? Were demons real? Did you kill those people? Valerie stopped. I killed trust, she said into the microphones. And I'm going to spend the rest of my days building it where I can. That's all I have. Marcus watched her walk away into the sunlight, a guarded corridor of deputies around her, and thought, sometimes redemption looks like a person carrying bricks. 6 months later, Grace Fountain Ministries remained closed, its glass foyer dusty, a realtor's sign leaning in weeds. But another building pulsed with life, a community center rehabilitated from a defunct clinic. On its door, the Janelle Adams Room. Inside, bright paint, shelves of books, a bulletin board with scholarship recipients' photos. Aria Coleman's gap-toothed grin in the center. Valerie arrived each morning at 7, checked inventory, wrote grant letters, mopped floors when volunteers didn't show. At noon she led a tiny circle in a side room. Naomi, Tina on a laptop, Rochelle when she could get off work. They prayed short, worked long, laughed sometimes. One afternoon, a man stood in the doorway in a charcoal suit, smile precise. Silver hair. Pale eyes. Elliot Crane. Tina's fingers froze above keys. Rochelle rose like a storm standing. Valerie did not step back. We're closed, she said evenly. Elliot's smile sharpened. You left books unpaid, V. My name is Valerie, she said. He glanced around, nostrils flaring as if smelling new paint offended him. You've made a curious altar. It's not an altar, Naomi said calmly. It's a table. We eat here. Tables become altars when blood is spilled upon them, Elliot mused. Rochelle's voice dripped steel. You touch this place, I will drag your name to every channel from here to New York. He tilted his head, amused. So much light. You think it blinds me. It makes the shadows deeper. Valerie stepped closer, cross at her throat. Not magic. Memory. This is public. We have cameras. And we have witnesses. If you want to play with doors, find another house. This one has locks. Elliot's eyes flashed. For a breath, a flat cold. Then he smiled again, easy as smoke. Another day, then. He left, the door shutting softly behind him, a bell's faint jingle seeming to echo too long. Naomi exhaled, long and slow. Thresholds, she murmured. We'll need watchers. Then we'll be watchers, Tina said, opening a new tab labeled Security and Protocol. Rochelle touched the photo of Janelle on the wall. Let him come. We're not the same women he trained to fear. Valerie nodded. Night voices, day vows, she said. We choose the latter every morning. On a rainy Saturday, they hosted the first Mothers of Restoration meetup. folding chairs, crock pots, children's laughter ricocheting off cinder block walls. Valerie spoke briefly, not with preacher's cadence, but with worker's truth. I thought being a pastor would make me a lighthouse, she said. Turns out I'm better as a lamp, small, local, faithful. Lamps are cheap, but they keep rooms from tripping over themselves. Tina ran a workshop on budgeting for medical emergencies. Naomi prayed with two exhausted grandmothers whose sons were locked up. Rochelle led a breakout on grief, words plain and tender enough to hold a broken bone. Near closing, a little girl tugged Valerie's sleeve. Miss V, she said solemnly, my mama says your building is safe. Valerie crouched. Your mama is wise. The girl looked at the door, where rain streaked the glass. What about the outside? Valerie glanced at Naomi, then back. Outside is a lot. But if the rain gets heavy, you come here. We'll put a towel by the door and soup on the stove and wait it out together. The little girl nodded, satisfied. As the room emptied, a text buzzed on Valerie's phone, an unknown number, a photo attached, the Moreland basement, candles relit. Elliot, we dine tonight. Valerie showed Marcus, who had slipped in to help fold chairs. He stared at the photo, jaw tightening. We're ready this time, he said. Are we? Valerie asked. Marcus nodded. You taught me something, Pastor. Sometimes the bravest thing isn't a raid. It's a circle. Midnight. The community center's lights stayed on, bright, unpretentious, humming. Naomi brewed coffee. Rochelle placed Janelle's photo at the center of a round table. Tina set her laptop to record. Marcus and Deja waited with two plainclothes officers outside, unmarked cars idling. They didn't go to Moreland. They made Elliot come to them or fail at his theater. Valerie took a breath. Jesus, be louder. The door didn't open. No grand entrance. No theatrics. Just a pressure in the room, a presence that felt like the air holding its breath. The thermostat clicked down 2 degrees without instruction. Naomi began to hum a hymn, almost under her breath. Rochelle joined, then Tina, off-key but fierce. Valerie spoke names, Janelle Adams, Aria Coleman, Marla Johnson, Aaliyah Grant. The lights flickered once, then steadied. A draft licked the back of Valerie's neck and went nowhere, like a dog thwarted by a gate. Elliot Crane did not appear. Perhaps he realized what Clarice told them months ago. Hunt a vow, not a body. Their vow tonight was simple, loud, local. It left no cracks. After an hour, the pressure eased. The thermostat ticked back. The coffee went pleasantly stale. Valerie laughed, surprised by Joy's audacity. Marcus texted from outside, quiet. No movement. Valerie replied, sometimes that's the win. They cleaned up. Lights clicked off one by one. The building settled with a soft groan, like a large creature content. On the wall, under the photo grid, a handwritten sentence had been taped earlier that day. Tina's scrawl, we will be louder than the night. Valerie locked the door, pocketed the key, and stepped into rain that smelled like forgiveness. A year later, the Janelle Adams Scholarship had funded treatments for 12 children. The lodge network was fractured, its remnants scattered, its ledgers seized. Elliot Crane remained a warrant with a face. Sometimes that's how evil survives, as a cautionary poster. Clarissa's shop hosted monthly threshold talks, where people learned what promises not to make when life begged for shortcuts. Aaliyah completed her GED inside and led the chapel choir with a voice that could snatch grief by the throat and teach it to harmonize. Marla ran a letter-writing circle that helped women become mothers again from behind bars. Rochelle kept a candle by her window still, this one scented with vanilla and undeniably mortal, because some rituals deserve reclaiming. Tina moved back for good, bought a second-hand sedan, learned the names of the kids who looped the block on scooters. Naomi's hair went whiter. Her laugh went freer. Valerie. She woke early, brewed coffee, mopped floors, wrote grants, returned calls. Some nights she still heard whispers. Most nights she did not. When the old ache stirred, she would sit cross-legged on the community room floor, place Janelle's photo in front of her, and say the little girl's name like a psalm until dawn unstitched the dark. She remained what she finally wanted to be, not a spectacle, a lamp. And if anyone asked whether she was a pastor by day and something else by night, she'd smile, small and steady. By day, by night, she said, I'm a woman held. The rest is weather.